Tums is perhaps the single greatest over-the-counter medication ever developed. Nearly every other over-the-counter medication has side effects like kidney damage, liver damage, or neurotoxicity. Tums has essentially no side effects. In the nearly century since Tums were invented, they have never had a single safety recall other than for contamination. Nexium, which is a Tums competitor, can cost over $10 without insurance. Tums costs about 6 cents. Tums' main competitor, which are PPIs, cost billions of dollars to develop. Tums costs about $5. Tums is safer, more efficacious, faster acting, and cheaper than any other over-the-counter medication in the world. So to understand why it's just such a great medication, let's go back to where it all started. In 1928, Jim Howe had a problem. His wife had super bad indigestion. So to fix this, in his basement, he started experimenting. Now, Jim was a pharmacist and he knew that people had been using chalk to cure stomach problems for centuries. The issue is that chalk, believe it or not, kind of tastes like chalk. So Jim just made a tiny little tweak. All that he did was mix it with some sugar and some flavorings just to make it a little more palatable. The innovation Jim made in his basement that day wasn't necessarily the active ingredient itself, but more the method of delivery. He took this crude and unpleasant way of consuming a medication and made it into a tasty, chewable tablet. Tums almost instantly became America's best-selling antacid. And today, it's still the single best-selling antacid in the country, making over $3 billion every year. Now let's look at the actual pharmacology. The method of action is stupid simple. The calcium carbonate, which has a pH of about 9 to 9.5, reacts with the acidic stomach acid. Then the stomach acid gets neutralized, aka the pH is increased. That's it. The only byproducts are carbon dioxide, water, and some calcium salt. And because its mechanism of action is so simple, it has virtually no side effects. Other medications, like the PPIs we were talking about earlier, can take 1 to 4 days to start working. Tums starts working in under 5 minutes. And on PPIs, more than half the patients who use them get rebound symptoms even worse after they go off the medication. But hey, maybe I'm painting these other medications in a bad light. Maybe they're not that bad. Let's take a look at Zantac. Zantac was a histamine blocker that was very commonly prescribed and had similar effects to Tums. But in 2020, the FDA banned Zantac because it could break down into a cancer-causing chemical. Sanofi, who is a manufacturer of Zantac, agreed to pay over $200 million to victims affected by Zantac's harmful effects. Independent analysis showed that in normal conditions, Zantac could break down into a harmful chemical called NDMA. NDMA, which is a known carcinogen, causes extreme damage to the liver and can also result in headaches, vomiting, and nausea. An independent analysis showed that a single pill of Zantac could contain over 3,000 times the daily recommended limit for NDMA. But now let's look at PPIs. PPIs are a over $3 billion a year industry in the US alone. PPI stands for proton pump inhibitor. Picture your stomach lining. Buried in that wall are millions of cells. And inside each of those cells is something called a proton pump. Proton pumps are this little molecular machine that pumps out hydrogen ions into your stomach and creates stomach acid. Now you swallow a PPI. Here's the weird part. Nothing happens. The drug is completely inert right now. It's like swallowing a locked grenade. Then you eat something. Food hits your stomach and those parietal cells wake up. Now all of those cells start acidifying a tiny little channel. That little channel is exactly what the PPI has been looking for. Inside that channel, it gets converted into its active form. That chemical immediately starts hunting for proton pumps. When it finds it, it forms what's called a covalent bond with cysteine residue. On the pump, this acts like superglue. It's like an on-off or reversible lock and key scenario. Once that PPI hits, it's gone. That pump is chemically welded and will not work again. And that's why PPIs hit so differently than something like Tums. Your body can't just flush out the drug and recover. The only way that you can get natural acid production back is by your body creating completely new proton pumps from scratch. And because your body was so suppressed when you're on the medication, whenever you come off of it, your body overcompensates and it overproduces proton pumps. That's why so many people who stop PPIs cold turkey get brutal acid rebound. These new antacids that companies spend hundreds of millions or in some cases even billions of dollars to develop still can't beat Tums' short-term and long-term safety profile. And even outside of being an antacid, Tums is one of the most commonly prescribed calcium supplements in the country. This is simply because it's such a concentrated source of calcium. And it's actually so safe and effective, it's even prescribed to pregnant mothers so that their child and themselves can get enough calcium in. In conclusion, for nearly a century, Tums have been one of the most commonly used, safest, and most effective medications in the country. Almost no other medication in history has ever had this combination of positive attributes. If you watched this far into the video, thank you. If you want to subscribe, you can. Thank you for watching.